Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, Health Minister Renward Wells defends political parties after crowd concerns. How Eleuthera residents are coping 1 year into the COVID-19 pandemic. Plus, why the National Security Minister says the death of a 10-year-old boy may be related to a turf war. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, Health Minister Renward Wells today insisting health protocols are being followed as campaign season heats up. Jasmine Brown has more.
Now, the health minister was quick to dance around reporters' repeated questions about concerns that arise after politicians have continued to campaign in large numbers in the midst of a pandemic. The health minister says as long as campaigners are observing the health protocols, there shouldn't be an issue.
I campaign, I observe the protocols, I wear my mask. A lot of the women want to hug, the men want to shake hands, and you need to be able to dap. And so from the standpoint of just campaigning, it isn't the activity that's the issue. It's whether or not you're engaging in the kinds of protocol while you're in that activity.
Wells not only brushing off criticism but also denying politicians are acting more like hypocrites than responsible candidates. Asked whether he thought it was hypocritical of him to campaign with a large group, given that he is the Minister of Health and is often called on Bahamians and residents to avoid large gatherings, Wells said this.
I said I campaign. I didn't say I campaign with more than. I will say that I have.
Suggest different.
Well, I would say to you this. If you have a group of persons, 10 individuals gathering in a particular area and walking, that's different than having 50 individuals all together in a particular grouping and walking, okay? And like I said, and I would reiterate to all and sundry, the health protocols are there. They're there to be observed, and we ought to observe them.
Both the Free National Movement and the Progressive Party were out in large numbers over the weekend, drawing criticism from some members of the public. When asked to respond to criticism over the crowd sizes, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who was campaigning in Centerville, said every individual is wearing their mask. Wells also responding to concerns that the political season could cause a third wave of COVID-19 infections.
When it comes to entering a third wave, there is the possibility of that.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, nearly 1 year since COVID-19 restrictions were put in place, islands like Eleuthera remain under tight rules. Our Kyle Joaquin is live on Eleuthera tonight. Kyle?
Well, Christina, we're standing on Cupid's Key in central Eleuthera, and since we've gotten here, we've been able to move around and speak with a few residents about their concerns. Now, topping that list for just about all of them has been the the frequent interruption in their running water supply.
Our biggest concern was staff, because we might have resources to keep us floating as a family for a certain amount of time, but we were concerned our staff would not.
Things are finally starting to look up for Michelle Johnson and the family-ran Buccaneer Club in Governor's Harbor. But when COVID-19 restrictions rolled out last year, business was hit hard. Johnson says while the family business had to cut costs across the board, they kept on all staff.
So we brought them back to work whenever we could, as quickly as we could, and as often as we could. We also did a food program for many of our staff. We had friends assist with that, where they would give us matching funds based on what we provided or what we could offer, and then we would just do packages and our staff would come in and take them.
Diallo Ingram, the owner of a service station in Rock Sound, had a similar experience.
We cut back on our hours because what actually happened was we make a lot of our small sales off of kids going to school and buying patties and drinks and different things, and so kids not going to school, so therefore that revenue is not coming in, so we cut back on our hours.
But for many residents, especially in central Eleuthera, the situation has only been made more difficult with essential service disruptions. Some residents say water would go off for hours or sometimes days at a time.
Water is the biggest problem because it's water you can't do without. You can do without current sometimes, but not the water. We save some in tins when it go off just in case to flush your toilets and stuff with the mop and stuff.
Many other residents complained but feared being on camera because they're civil servants. However, Johnson says while interruptions to services such as power and running water may seem small to some, they are a major inconvenience.
Some things run with electricity. We have a POS system, so all of a sudden you can't take orders in the same way. It gets very hot in the kitchen because all the fans are off, and then if you don't have water, we're hauling water in to be able to, deal with sanitary issues, and so it's a huge challenge.
We reached out to BPL Chairman Donovan Moxey, who says transmission and distribution have been ongoing throughout mainland Eleuthera and Harbour Island in preparation for the summer months. All attempts to reach officials at the Water and Sewage Corporation were unsuccessful. However, the corporation's Facebook page is filled with updates and advisories of interruptions and upgrades. Meanwhile, business owner Roderick Pender, who owns a business store and rental car company, says he's now seeing more and more tourists return to the island.
When the end of March rolled around, I never saw bookings fall through so drastically in my whole experience in this business. I mean, people were canceling left, right, and center. For what I see, we're almost back to some sort of normalcy, particularly in the rental business. I'm talking about my perspective and what I'm seeing. I can't speak for everyone else, but the rental business right now is doing very good.
Now, just to end on a positive note, I want you to take a good look at this beautiful sunset here at Governor's Harbor. But if there is one positive with this situation here on Eleuthera, it is that there is a lot of tourist activity. Whether you go in restaurants or wherever you go, you will see a lot of visitors, and that's a good thing. Some foreign dollars finally coming back into the country, and particularly here for this community of Eleuthera. Back to you, Christina.
That's definitely great news, Kyle. But what do you say about Bahamians, our domestic tourists?
Oh, it's thriving here, at least from what I've seen so far. I can only speak for myself. I've seen a number of Nasuvians here visiting, as well as foreigners, like I mentioned. But it's a good thing to see finally Eleutherans getting back to work, whether in hotels, restaurants. They're happy to finally be back in there and making some money. So it's a good thing.
Sounds good, Kyle. Enjoy your time on Eleuthera. In other news, Minister of National Security Marvin Dame says while he believes short-term crime-fighting measures are working, deeper issues will continue to cause surges in crime. This comes days after a 10-year-old boy was murdered, an incident Dame suggests was the result of a turf war.
Many of our young men feel that this is the only way to resolve a problem. And so it speaks to this deep-rooted problem that we face in this country, and as I continue to say, while we're making strides, we're not at the end of the road. There's a significant amount of work to be done.
On Thursday night, police responded to reports of a shooting on Finlayson Street where 4 people, 3 boys and 1 man had been shot. The 10-year-old boy who was killed has been identified as Ken Rondine. One of the injured boys is his twin brother. And an 18-year-old was charged with murder today. Randy Mackey is charged with the March 9th killing of Renardo Morley in Pinewood Gardens. Police say Morley was shot after his vehicle was cut off by another car as he was driving along Sugar Apple Street. He eventually crashed his car into a wall. Mackey was not required to enter a plea to the charges. Bail was denied and he was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until June 17th, when he will return to court for service of a voluntary bill of indictment. Meanwhile, a 42-year-old Grand Bahama man was charged with 2 counts of burglary and 1 count of indecent assault. Prosecutors alleged DeMarco Dean of Privateer Drive is responsible for breaking into 2 homes on Butterwick Road and Blockade Drive, where he indecently assaulted a woman. Dean was not required to enter a plea to the charges. He was remanded and will return to court for trial on May 31st. And Commissioner of Police Paul Roll says he's planning to lead by example and get vaccinated against COVID-19. However, he tells our Jillian Gray he will not forcefully direct any of his officers to take the jab.
Yeah, I'm going to take the vaccine.
Police officers have been on the front lines of the pandemic for the past year, resulting in many officers being exposed or infected with the virus. The commissioner says when he takes the jab, it'll be for the good of all.
I remember as a little boy in school taking the vaccine for polio and measles and some other, I don't remember all them things, and the mumps, MMR they used to give you, and you had to go back for your booster. That used to hurt. But today, whenever they do it, yeah, I'll be more than willing to take the little stick.
According to the Office of the Prime Minister's website, appointments for Royal Bahamas Defence Force officers and healthcare workers begin today. Police officers are eligible to get vaccinated in this first wave of the vaccine rollout as well. Roll says he won't be directing his officers to take the vaccine, but he hopes they'll follow his example.
The system is going to be open, and they have that choice. So I'm not going to be directing anybody what to do.
Meanwhile, Roll says the pandemic has caused the Royal Bahamas Police Force to adjust the way it operates.
The difficulty for us was, I came in the midst of the pandemic. We had to we looked for the pandemic script. There was none.
Now, the commissioner said he's learned several lessons over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic that's influenced his policing plan. That plan is currently at the printers and is set to be released shortly. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Thanks, Jillian. And a little later, Our News gives you a sneak peek of the vaccine center on Grand Bahama. Well, it was a nice and breezy morning in the capital today. Greg Thompson has the latest details over in the Weather Center.
Thanks, Christina. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather. Warm day around the islands once again. Temperatures managing to get into the 80s, almost summer-like. Right now we're in the mid-70s, 75 degrees, still warm. Southeast winds at 10 knots, a little on the breezy side, and your light temperature 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Satellite view around the area. We have that high-pressure ridge remaining in charge. That east to southeasterly flow, bringing some clouds across us. We could see a couple of small showers out of those clouds, but all in all, a beautiful evening setting up on the outdoors. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
And still to come on Our News, the Attorney General addresses the Senate controversy and why the opposition leader says words matter. Stay with us.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Leader of government business in the Senate and Attorney General Carl Bethel insisting today that he did not blame the Clerk of Parliament, David Forbes, for the lack of a quorum during Friday's Senate meeting. Jasmine Brown reports.
The AG was quick to defend his position in the Senate on Tuesday morning, insisting he was not trying to play the blame game. The AG made the comments in response to House Speaker Halston Moutry, who said on Monday that Bethel misrepresented what happened.
What I said was the truth as I saw it, based on my reading of anybody. The statement I made was a statement merely to outline the sequence of events.
On Friday, after opposition senators showed up for a meeting which could not proceed because no government ministers were present, Bethel said in a statement that he made a request to the Clerk of Parliament on Tuesday, requesting that the Senate meeting be brought forward only for the purpose of tabling the resolution to approve the mid-year budget statement. Bethel says despite his request, the clerk did not issue a notice to change the date of the meeting until 6:44 p.m. on Thursday. Moultrie, however, said that according to his conversations with the clerk, the information is clear that the clerk received such information at 6:18 p.m. on Thursday to convene the Senate on Friday. Moultrie added that the clerk took immediate action to try and convene the Senate as per the request of the President of the Senate, which came late Thursday evening. Bethel, however, insists he would never call Forbes' competence into question.
For those who think that I would throw the chief clerk under the bus, nothing could be further from the truth. The chief clerk has shown himself in over 40 years of service to this Parliament to be extremely knowledgeable, efficient, helpful, and a source of guidance and support for whomsoever is in office at any particular time.
However, Progressive Liberal Party Senator Fred Mitchell says Bethel owes everyone an apology for what transpired on Friday.
It was clearly throwing the clerk under the bus. Even if that were not the intention, that's the way it came off.
Mitchell also maintains that Bethel's statement suggests that Forbes was to blame for the incident. He says Bethel should have taken responsibility. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis hitting back at the Prime Minister's choice of words to describe PLP MPs. Bethany McDermott reports.
PLP leader Philip Davis describing the Prime Minister's description of 4 PLP MPs as contaminants as very insulting and unbecoming.
I find that very insulting. It's unbecoming of anyone to be calling members of Parliament contaminants, and it clearly shows you where his mind is and the level he is at in this campaign.
Dr. Minnis was referring to Englerston MP Glenys Hannah Martin, Mangrove Key South and Central Andros MP Picewell Forbes, PLP Deputy Leader Chester Cooper, and Party Leader Philip Davis.
I understand he's saying that's political, that's rally talk, but we, as responsible leaders, ought to appreciate that we ought not to be demonizing one another in such terms.
Addressing the matter during debate on a compendium of financial legislation, Davis said words matter.
The campaign that me and my party will be against him during the coming election will not stoop to such dehumanizing levels and practice. The language that's used by the Prime Minister is part of a campaign.
That remark from the Prime Minister came during a walkabout with 3 National Movement members in the Centerville constituency last weekend. During that walkabout, the Prime Minister said the FNM tried to wipe out the PLP, but 4 contaminants escaped. Does Davis believe an apology is due?
Well, first of all, does he have that, they call it testicular? Well, he has a testicular fortitude to apologize, to appreciate that what he has done is unbecoming. It's unbecoming and a disgrace for a leader of a country to be referring to fellow parliamentarians as contaminants.
On Saturday, Dr. Minnis expressed confidence the FNM will win all 39 seats in the next general election.
What do you think about his claims that he's going to win all 39 seats from next election?
Delusional.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Still to come, a travel ban on Haiti extended another 30 days. Plus, sports highlights are coming up when Our News returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is Our News. Welcome back. The travel ban on Haiti has been extended another 30 days, according to an amendment to the emergency orders released Saturday. The amendment to Order 15 of the Principal Order says entry into the Bahamas of any vessel or person who has departed from Haiti shall be prohibited for a period of 30 days beginning March 13, 2021. Foreign Affairs Minister Darren Henfield tells Our News that health professionals have advised extending the ban for another 30 days to be cautious of unforeseen eventualities. Our News understands that some passengers scheduled on a Bahamas Air flight to Haiti on Saturday showed up at the airport only to learn their flight was canceled. Henfield says the airlines found out a little late and should have had advance notice. However, he says that international bodies have since been notified of the travel ban extension. Well, health officials on Grand Bahama gearing up for the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine on that island. Giorgio Bain has that.
Grand Bahama health workers are preparing to roll out the COVID-19 vaccine this week, according to Grand Bahama Health Services Administrator Sharon Williams. Our News caught up with Williams as she and her team prepare the Susan J. Wallace Community Center for the vaccine's arrival. Williams says the rollout will be fast-paced with the aim to vaccinate 200 people per day.
We will be rolling out as quickly as possible, at least 6 persons per 15 minutes. We want to be able to achieve those numbers.
Triage is next, where patients will be tagged based on their health status.
So the patients will be tagged as to whether they can be administered the vaccine on that day and whether there are any allergies or any medical concerns that we should be looking for.
A 15-minute observation period follows every vaccination, monitoring individuals for any possible reactions to the vaccine.
In case there is any kind of medical events, we have our bed and we have our crash cart. We also will have medical personnel that is managing this facility.
Everyone who receives the COVID-19 vaccine will receive an appointment for their second dose 8 to 12 weeks after the first jab. According to Principal Nursing Officer Sherilyn Bain, 20% of the population of each settlement needs to be vaccinated to achieve herd immunity on that island. Reporting for our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Both of our Bahamian NBA players in action last night with mixed results. Marcellus Hall has the details.
All right, thanks, Christina. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. When the Phoenix Suns ended last season, there were some high hopes based on their play in the bubble that they would be a force to reckon with coming into this season. That hope has certainly turned into a reality now, as they're now a playoff contender moving forward. Last night in action, trying to solidify their hold on second place in the West. DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns sitting in second place in the tough Western Conference. Last night, taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Suns, they would trail at the end of the first quarter, but that would not last very long. They poured on the rest of the way, cruising to the blowout victory, 122-99. Ayton solid outing, 15 points. He had 9 rebounds as well in his 28 minutes on the floor. He also had 2 steals and 3 blocks. Suns, they improved their record, 26-12 now in the air. Their next game on Thursday when they take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Meanwhile, Buddy Hield and the Sacramento Kings up against the Charlotte Hornets. Kings off to a good start. They led by as many as 15 points in the second half. But it's not how you start, but rather how you finish. Hornets come back. They snatched the win, 122-116. Our guy Buddy, 36 minutes on the floor. He would finish with 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. That was in a losing cause. Hornets now winners of 4 in a row. Sacramento, they fall to 15-24. That's 13th in the West. They play the Wizards on Wednesday. And that's a look at sports for you here on this Tuesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual fund in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
Coming up, Greg is back in the Weather Center, plus spreading sunshine at a senior citizen's home. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. More breezy conditions ahead. Greg is back in the weather studio to tell us more.
Thanks again, Christina, and a happy Tuesday evening, everybody. Real warm temperatures around our area tonight as we expect that high pressure system to remain in control of our weather, generating mostly stable conditions across the islands. We could see a couple of spotty showers as we do have some clouds moving in from the east, approaching the Bahamas on the eastern side of the islands. But all in all, lovely conditions expected until Friday, when we do expect the frontal boundary to get near sometime, but that front is expected to wash it rather quickly. No real temperature change behind that. Plan on doing any boating tonight through tomorrow. Caution flag post a few boaters. East to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Your high tide will be at 10:59 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Sunday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a great Tuesday evening, everybody. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. Well, the Gibson family shining a ray of sunshine on the 80 residents at Pat's senior home as they celebrate the life and legacy of Gerline Gibson. The residents were treated to lunch as the family highlighted their mother's teachings of altruism.
The family continued to make a contribution to the home by every year by providing the home with lunch, and we'd like to first of all thank the family. But most of all, we would like to thank Ms. Pat Moxie, the owner and the proprietor of this home. This is one of the #1 establishment in the Caribbean. We can hold a capacity of 80 persons. So anyone that is looking for a home, for care for their family, we are the place.
It's a home away from home. We do everything that one would do in their house.
Homeowner Pat Moxie says it's all about maintaining a routine and uplifting residents at the home. Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas. Stay tuned for a new episode of Broke Bosses.